We had a pretty busy October and November. We launched two new things that I want to talk about today. The first is we launched over 100 new futures tickers. So that's something that people have been requesting for quite a while. So we basically added support for all the futures tickers that TradeStation supports. And nothing really changed as far as how you use it. You basically just have more tickers available. Previously, it was restricted to just ES, MES, NQ, and MNQ. But now when you're setting up your strategies and you go to input the tickers, it'll allow you to enter more tickers than it had before. So other things that changed in the application is that at the top right of the broker dashboard, you'll see a new link called tickers. And this basically just gives you a searchable list of all the tickers that are supported. So we wanted to see just the tickers for CME. You could filter it by that exchange. So you can see that we have support for Bitcoin futures. I think Ethereum is in here, and all the commodities that you would expect to exist. A few other changes that came along with this is that if you click to view a ticker, it shows you all the associated tickers. So you can see it shows you the current contract and the next contract. These are what are called continuous contract symbols. And they're basically just kind of like references that point to whatever the current contract is or whatever the next contract is. So whenever this contract expires, then BTC1 exclamation point will roll over and will then point to this one. So if we click this ticker here, we can see now that we're looking at the December contract. But if I click the January one, now we're looking at the January one. And if I click quote at the top right, that'll show me the current quote for that symbol. So I just click back now and go back to click the current contract and click quote. Now you'll see the quote for the current contract. And these buttons have been here for several months now, but these buttons just show you the raw data that came from TradingView, and that data mapped to the TradersPost model for quotes. So one of the bigger challenges that we had with adding support for all these futures tickers is they all have different minimum moves and point values. And we had to improve our quote model to basically handle this new complexity. Previously, with just ES, MES, NQ, and MNQ, it was always the same minimum move and the same point value. And we kind of had that hard coded. Well, as of that release that we released over the weekend, it makes this part dynamic. So if I go look at a different future symbol, let's look at the Eurex, and let's just look at the DAX futures. So this one is different. See how it moves in dollar increments, and a point value is 25. So you see the value here is different compared to Bitcoin. And what this means is that, like, if I try to submit a limit order for FDAX, so let's submit 4,292 and 25 cents. Well, this is going to error. It's going to give me a validation error because that's not in a valid increment of $1. So in order to get it to accept this, I have to submit an even dollar amount. And that's different per ticker. So now let's go find a ticker with a different increment. Let's see what soybean oil is. So soybean oil moves in penny increments. So if I were to try to submit a limit order for 63.621, this is going to give me an error because it moves in a minimum of a penny increment. So we had to make our system aware of this so that when prices get sent into TradersPost from TradingView and it's not in one of the accepted increments, TradersPost can modify that price and either round that price up or down into the nearest increment. And of course, you can do that on your side in your TradingView Pine script to make sure that the alert always has the price rounded to the nearest increment. But if you don't want to do that in your strategy, or you don't know how to do it, you can just send the price unrounded, and TradersPost will make sure that we modify the price before sending it to the broker so that the broker doesn't reject it, saying that the price isn't in the right increment. So there are some other tickers. Let's see if we can find another one. The Australian dollar. Interesting. So this one moves in that increment. I just realized that there's a bug here. I need to fix that. It's not properly rendering that price right there. But if I try to submit a limit order here, or let's see what happens. So see how it's not allowing it because it's not in that valid increment. But if I remove that, still not a valid increment. Now it's in a valid increment. So the other thing that we added, before I move on to the next thing, the only other thing that has come up, a customer asked me about the 10-year futures, and the symbol in TradingView is different than the symbol in TradersPost. And we don't yet have a feature that will allow you to just send the TradingView symbol. And we don't have anything that will convert it from the TradingView symbol to the TradersPost symbol. So when you set up the alert in TradingView, you will not be able to do it like this. So let me pull my, 1 second, let me change what monitor I'm sharing here. So normally in TradingView, you would send something like this in the JSON. In the case where the ticker is different between TradingView and TradersPost, you would basically just have to hard code the ticker. So in this case, I think in TradingView it's TN1, but in TradersPost it's something else. I can't remember exactly what it is. But anyways, instead of using that curly bracket variable from TradingView, you can basically just hard code the ticker name inside of your alert so that it uses the ticker that TradersPost uses instead of the ticker that TradingView uses. In the future, we probably will have a feature that will make it flexible so that we support any format. It'll basically just translate it between the different versions of the ticker. But we don't quite have that feature yet, so you'll have to manually specify that. And then the other new big feature that we added over the weekend was in the TradeStation broker, there previously didn't used to be support for trailing stops, but you can now submit trailing stops. So if let me just do a market buy for one contract of CV. So now we're in this position here. You can see that market order was filled. Now, what if I want to add a trailing stop for that existing position? So I could just do a market sell or a limit sell. What if I want to do a trailing stop? And I could say, do a 1% trailing stop. And now when I submit that, now I have this trailing stop order that is trailing the current market price by 1%. So if the price of this position moves up and then it moves down 1%, that the gain will be locked in at that level. And the trailing stop, that stop price effectively moves up as the price of the asset moves up. So you can send the trailing stop afterwards, but you also have the ability. So I'm just going to close this position now. What if I wanted to submit the stop loss with the entry order. You can do that as well. So if I submit this market buy for one contract and I check stop loss and I click buy, you can see now I have this entry order here, but then it's also going to send this conditional trailing stop order with it. And it works the same if I wanted to send a take profit. So say I want to have a take profit at $300. Now, if I click buy to confirm, now you'll see that we're sending two orders with the entry order. One for a take profit with a limit sell, a limit price at $300, and a trailing stop sell with a 1% trail. So if I go ahead and submit this now, you'll see that we have the open position and these two orders are sitting there open waiting. And if one of them is to fill, it'll cancel the other one. And that's called a one cancels other, an OCO. That's a very common order type that many brokers support. So I'm just going to cancel these orders now and close that position. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a quick futures webhook. I'll make sure I don't already have one. I might already have one. No, I don't. All right. So I'm just going to create a new webhook. We'll call it test futures webhook. And we'll associate it to the futures asset class. And we're just going to do NQ. Or let's do Bitcoin. All right. So we'll save that webhook. Let's create a new strategy. We'll call it the futures test strategy. And let's associate it to that webhook we just created, test futures webhook. And let's do both sides. We'll default it to Bitcoin. We want the asset class to be futures. Let's just do one contract. And let's allow the signal to send in a take profit and stop loss. We'll make it a stop loss by default. And let's do entry market and exit market. And that just basically means we're always going to enter and exit with market orders. All right, so now we have that strategy created. Let's create a subscription for it. And let's tie it to my paper TradeStation futures account. And let's check auto submit. And the settings in the strategy subscription get populated with the default settings that we just inputted into the strategy. So you'll see that sides was automatically set to both because that's the default setting in the strategy. It defaulted to Bitcoin. We selected our paper TradeStation futures account. The asset class is futures. We're going to buy hard-coded quantity of 1, and we're allowing a take profit and a stop loss from the signal. And we're going to do entry market and exit market. So we'll save that. Now the last step is just to enable the strategy subscription. So now we have the strategy connected to our TradeStation paper broker. And let's go back to that test futures webhook we just created previously. And let's send a buy signal. So you'll see that it's confirming that this is the JSON that TradersPost will send to the webhook. So let's click send. You'll see now that trade was executed. It bought one contract of the current BTC contract. You can see that this was the webhook request that triggered that trade. This was the log of the data that we sent to the broker. So you can see that we sent a post request to the V2 orders API. And this was the response that TradeStation gave back to us. And you can see that the order was filled. Everything looks good. We can click the view trade button to get back to the previous screen. And the next thing that we're going to do now is send another signal to sell. And we're going to specify that we want the sentiment to be bearish, which means that it's going to open up a position on the short side after exiting the long position, but we're going to include a take profit and a stop loss that is specified in the signal itself. So let me pull up my trading view. What's the current price of BTC futures? So it's 16,935. So let's just do a 5% take profit, and let's do a trailing stop of 1%. All right, so we've unchecked test. What this means is that when we uncheck test, it's going to send the signal to the webhook and it's going to trigger trades for any of the strategy subscribers. If I were to leave this checked, it basically won't do anything. It's basically just like a dry run. It'll record the fact that the webhook was sent, but it won't trigger any trades for any strategy subscribers. So let's click confirm now. And this is the JSON that it's going to send. It's for the current contract. We want to sell bearish. We're going to have a 5% take profit and a 1% trailing stop. And let's see if we set this up right. All right. Trade was completed. And you'll see that we sent a market order to exit the current open position. And then it submitted another sell order to enter short. And you see how it created these two orders underneath the entry order with our 1% stop loss. This aligns with this order right here and the 5% take profit. So it basically took the current price and applied a 5% take profit to it. And because this is a bearish short position, the take profit is at $16,105 because it's a short position. As the price of the asset moves down, our P&L goes up and our take profit will get us out if we get a 5% gain on that position. So you have the ability to send a different value for those take profits and stop losses. You can do a relative percentage based, you can do a dollar amount, or you can just specify the absolute take profit limit price. So if you wanted to calculate the price that you want to take profit at on the strategy side in TradingView, you could do all that math on the TradingView side and then just send it to us. Whoops. Just to show you what it would look like. You would send it to us in JSON that looks like that. It's a take profit object with a limit price field. So same thing over here in the stop loss. If I wanted to specify a stop loss price and a limit price, I could change this to a stop limit and I could input 2,000 different prices. So one for the stop price and one for the limit price. So if I submit that, you see the payload that gets sent to the webhook looks slightly different. Now, these are just examples, but of course you can send this JSON from TradingView or from Python or from whatever programming language your strategy is built in. So that's pretty much it for the new features that I wanted to show. Does anyone have any questions about the new futures tickers or about the new trailing stop functionality in TradersPost or anything else that you'd like me to cover today? Sander or Mike, anyone have any questions or anything that you'd like me to look at? This only other thing, the small, subtle changes on the webhooks list, these links previously didn't show here. So you can get to the logs for a webhook with one click from the list. So you can see like these are the logs of the webhook requests that were sent to TradersPost. You can click those logs. You can see what IP address it came from, what the user agent was, the JSON that was sent. the associated ticker slash symbol, and then all of the trades that were executed as a result of that signal. All right. Well, if there are no other questions or anything, I think we'll close up today. I appreciate it. Let's see. Actually, I have one question. Joe asked, when does this go live with the different futures contract? Joe, that's already live. This is in production. You can read about it on our blog. This blog post right here. And then this blog post about the trailing stops. Amit asked, are there any plans for 2023? Early 2023, tentatively, we'll probably be working on interactive brokers integration. And then after that, probably adding crypto support. And which broker we add crypto support with is still kind of TBD, but most likely it'll be Coinbase. We're kind of waiting for the new Coinbase API to come out. They kind of, they're consolidating for everybody from Coinbase Pro to underneath Coinbase, and they're making a new API that's not available yet. So we don't really want to integrate with the old API because we know it's going away. So we're going to wait for the new API to avoid having to do the double work. And then TradeStation and Alpaca, they both support crypto already. The brokers themselves do, but TradersPost doesn't support crypto yet. So as soon as we do support crypto, Alpaca and TradeStation will probably be one of the first brokers that we support crypto with, since we already have support for crypto, we already have support for those brokers. So expanding those broker integrations to then support crypto is a pretty easy jump. Something else that I'll show, if you just click docs in the header menu on the website, this takes you to our documentation. And then there's a releases link in the header. And this basically just shows you a log of all the changes that we've made to the system. So you can see the December 3rd, here is the information about the new futures tickers. And then December 5th, yesterday, we launched the trailing stops for TradeStation. So this is where you can go to kind of see whenever we release changes to the system, whether it be new features or bug fixes or really pretty much any change. We do make changes to the system that don't get listed here, but usually those are changes that don't affect the end user or shouldn't affect the end user. Joe asked, is there a list of future tickers? Yes. If it's in two places. If you go to the documentation and click asset classes and then click futures, you'll see the list of supported tickers here. But then in the application, if you go to the broker, a broker that supports futures, and you click the tickers button at the top right, this basically shows you a list of all the tickers that are supported. So we can search this, see that we have Ethereum there. We can buy one contract and we're good to go. We'll cancel this, do stop losses for the Bitcoin position. And we have the close all button to close all open positions. And there we go. We're out of those positions. Any other questions from anybody? That answer your question, Joe? Awesome. Well, I think we're good to go. I appreciate everyone joining. We do these every month, the first Tuesday of every month, right at 3 p.m. Central Time. So go ahead and RSVP for the next one, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Take care.